You all voted and decided I should go ahead and make some videos giving my opinions. What better place to start than by telling you about cantrips and how to use them. There are 46 official cantrips out there, and technically there could be an infinite number of these suckers. Of course, if you make a new cantrip, you could end up with, hello? And what better cantrip is there? Hello everyone, my name is the Artificial DM, and today I'm bringing you my take and views on cantrips and how to use them. This right here is an introductory video before I get into the cantrips themselves. So if you're not interested about learning about cantrips, then go ahead and click off of the video now. Before I can tell you my opinions on cantrips, we have to ask ourselves, what is a cantrip? A cantrip is a spell that the caster has repeated so many times that it has become second nature to them, requiring no spell slots or needing to be prepared in advance. It is a reactionary use of magic that can be cast at will. These cantrips can be used in combat, exploring, and even roleplay scenarios, and can be a great way to change the environment from one of these scenarios into another. Nothing ruins a diplomatic meeting like casting Shocking Grasp. A good example of a cantrip in media would be the Potterverse Lumos. The spell that lights the ends of wands is a simple spell that is similar to Dancing Lights, an invocation cantrip. I'm sure that you could come up with 100 different characters from all forms of media that possess the ability to cast cantrips. Let me know if you think of any. Even though cantrips are a free spell, being level 0 spells, cantrips still require the verbal, somatic, or material components in order to be cast. Each cantrip have their own requirements though. Cantrips are also classified by their schools of magic, and often have character class restrictions. There are a couple of ways to branch out of those restrictions, and we'll get to them in a bit. You may be wondering, how do you learn a cantrip? Well, let me show you. The first way that you can learn a cantrip is from your character's race. High Elves, Drow, Pallid Elves, Forest Gnomes, Lotus Den Halflings, Base Tieflings in most of their variants, Aasimar, Fire and Water Genasi, and Gith have access to cantrips from the racial traits. Of course, if you go variant human, you can use a feat obtained at level 1. Feats are the second way you can obtain a cantrip. The simplest feat that is available to humans is Magic Initiate, which grants 2 cantrips and 1 first level spell, all from the same class. Another feat that a variant human can take is the Spell Sniper, but it has a clause. If your character is already able to cast spells, so if your variant human is going to be one of the multitude of casters, then you can take this feat. It will allow you to learn 1 cantrip and your offensive magic spells range double, plus they will ignore some forms of cover. While I am on the subject of feats, there are a couple of others I should mention. Drow High Magic is the first one. If your character is a Drow, they can take this feat and they learn the Detect Magic spell as if it was a cantrip. It costs no spell slots and they can cast it at will. In addition, they gain 1 casting per long rest of Levitate and Dispel, which doesn't burn a spell slot if they use them. The other feat that gives a cantrip requires you to be playing a Wood Elf. If you are, then you can learn the Wood Elf Magic feat. You can learn your choice of a Druid cantrip, along with the ability to cast Longstrider and Pass Without a Trace once per long rest. The third way to obtain a cantrip is by your class. Artificers, Bards, Clerics, Druids, Sorcerers, Warlocks, and Wizards all have the ability to learn cantrips from their classes. Paladins and Rangers both have the ability to learn magic, however, they do not have any cantrips in their classes. Multi-classing into one of the classes that have cantrips is a great way to spice up a character that doesn't have any access to it. You can even find magic items that can store and cast cantrips by spending a charge, or encountering powerful magical beings that would be willing to grant you the ability to cast different cantrips. But that would be completely up to the discretion of your DM, and depends on where the plot takes your party. Your DM can also work with you to allow some homebrew cantrips into the game. Or, one of my personal favorite ways to implement a cantrip is to give it a renewed flavor. Maybe instead of Mage Hand physically looking exactly the same way for all casters, make how it is summoned and appears slightly different. A Warlock might summon a Mage Hand that appears in a poof of demonic looking smoke, and it has etchings of cursed infernal symbols emblazoned upon the skin of the hand, one that was probably a servant of the previous Warlock who served their master patron. As opposed to a Draconic Bloodline Sorcerer might summon the hand, and while it remains the same shape, form, and mechanic, it appears to have scales that glimmer on the spectral hand that ends in clawed nails. A physical reworking and description to help flavor your spells and world can make your character spells feel fresh and brand new. As you make your character, you may find that one of the cantrips that you desired is in another class and restricted from you. Consider one of the aforementioned ways on how to gain a cantrip. It may take tweaking your initial build, or a change of direction as your character levels up, but it may very well be worth the change in order to have access to the right combination of free spells at your fingertips. When it comes to making your characters, personally, it makes more sense to consider their background and history before choosing your cantrips. Wargamers might believe cantrips are a way to get in a lot of extra damage, which it can be, but you have to remember there are 3 aspects to the game: exploration, social interaction, and combat. As your character lives in the RPG world, what parts of their past or their current goals interest them into delving into certain parts of magic? Cantrips are a way to develop and shine the skills and points of interest relevant to your character. It can give them originality that makes them a memorable and useful member of the party. I believe cantrips are one of the most versatile and effective tools available to spellcasters. Generally, I try to make sure to have 2 or 3 of them available when constructing a new character, and any class. Even the barbarian, fighter, monk, paladin, ranger, rogue, and blood hunter could benefit from obtaining a cantrip or 2. With all of that said, it boils down to asking some questions. What cantrips are out there? Which ones are useful? What's the best way to use them? What should I choose for my character? Be sure to tune in at least once a week as we explore the different cantrips. Be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. I plan on covering all the cantrips and possibly branching off to do the spells. If you have any suggestions as to which ones should be covered sooner rather than later, be sure to leave a comment down below. Hopefully this has been a helpful breakdown and introduction to cantrips. And until next time, hope you feel inspired.